Let's wait a bit until others join us and then we'll start. Okay, I think we can start. Hello everyone. Today we will be talking about web applications on Java. So that will be the main task for us. We'll go through the presentation, the basic principles of how the connection to the server is done. So basically how the web pages are created, and this is mostly the common approach. How it is done with some differences for some different servers. It can be done differently, but the approach we will be talking today is based on how it is done in general. It is related also to what we've done in previous sessions, like the main HTML page, the forms, and the navigation in between the pages. This will be used here, and we'll basically go through how it will basically look from the actual creation of the from the perspective of the creation of the actual web applications, and we'll do it in Java, of course. Then at the end of the session today, I think this will be like around 14 minutes before the end of the session, I will ask you to prepare your workspace for the web application. I will show you how to do it, of course, and then you will set up the server. It's on your computer. Don't worry, that won't be complicated. Just you'll need to download one. You'll actually need to download the server folder and then connect it to Eclipse. I'll show you how to do it, and then you will need to create just the first project to see if everything works as expected. So that are our plans for today, and we can actually start working. Let me open the presentation. So here it is. Here it is. Let me make it bigger. So we're talking about Java web applications and the main principles of the web programming. So first of all, what we need to talk about. So when we connect to something, then we have these transmission control protocols. So basically, we are connecting to the web pages using the protocols. So then we have URL that's the actual address of where we actually execute. Basically, we execute the files. We open the files, and so using URL, we actually provide the path, the request to what is the path to the file. So previously, as I showed you, so if we go to Adobe, just as an example, you can go to any page, then you'll see the request. As you can see, you have HTTPS, so that's the secure request, and then the actual path to this page, and this is URL. This is the main. So when you see here, the first part is just the protocol. Then we have the domain. So that's what you can see here. This is the domain. Maybe let me create the screen bigger and hope that better for you. So let me resize it, and this hopefully will be better now. It's loading. Alright, so it's better. It's better now. So yes, this is the URL, and the main part is, again, as I said, we have the protocol, then we have the domain. The domain should be unique. You cannot have like two .lb in your web. It should be unique because it's basically, domains are you can buy them. If you are interested. You can go to you can actually check domains, but you can buy different domains. So you can actually check and buy them. In Latvia, that's NIC, NIC. That's for Latvian domains. Basically, this is the only place, I guess, in where you can buy Latvian domains. So here you can go and can register and buy the domains you want. You also can buy them on different hosting pages. If you want to create your own website, you can actually. There are lots of hostings you can find on the internet. Bluehost, OVH, and basically there are lots of hostings, and so on each hosting you can actually, they all suggest you to buy the domain from them. There can be different pricings for them based on how complicated your domain is, so you may get something like very strange for cheap price, or you can just get a normal usual domain for common price. So then here you have domain, and basically so when you have the server, so your server is located somewhere, usually on the hosting servers have this option to connect to the domain. So you have some credentials for your domain. You need to pass them, and then you will be able to connect your website on your server to this domain. It actually means that you enter domain, and it will navigate to your website, which is stored at some server. Regarding domains, so you have domains here, and if you are interested, there are also domains for the emails, of course. So when you can actually buy the domain, or you can have the existing domain, and you can also use it for for your email address. For example, Google has this option. It's called from Google Suite, where you can actually register and use your domain for your emails. So that's also when domains are used. But yeah, maybe the topic about the web pages and the domains used in the emails is a little bit different, but they both should be unique, and basically the source for the domain is for the emails, and for the web pages is that there's one source for them. If you have the domain here, so that, let's say that this domain you bought, it belongs to you, then you can actually also use it for the emails. But again, the setup and the price you do it may be different, and also the pricing may be different, and so on. So nothing is free, but yeah, you can just find different resources. But okay, that's maybe another question. Once you entered this part, you can actually navigate to. You will be navigated to the server, where this page is located based on domain, and after that, this will actually redirect you to the corresponding pages, and the pages are separated using slashes, and then you actually get navigated through the pages located on this site. So when you, for example, when you go just directly to AutoWeb without any domain, without any pages, then you actually get navigated to the starting page. Usually we call the starting page that's for all the servers, not only for Java servers, basically for all the servers. The main file is called index. It can be index. Usually it's not index HTML. It's for PHP. That's always index.php. But yeah, that's called index file. So when you see index dot something, that's most likely the starting page of the website. Starting page of the website, and so the code there may look a little bit not crazy, but it may not make any sense for what you may expect from this page. So I will show you how it may look like for the web page. A moment. So I'll just give you my website. For example, we have index.php, and when you open it, you may see something like this. So just HTML code, just some navigation. This is, so you can see some code, some methods on PHP, and no actual HTML code, which should actually be retrieved at the end. But basically how this is done. So here you see some methods which basically load different classes. They can be different another classes stored on the server with different logic, and at the end these classes will return you the HTML code you see now. Why it's needed? Because most of the files are let's say hidden, because when you navigate to the page, when you go to the sources, you actually see the files. Yeah, here you can see index as well. Here you can actually see the files which are available publicly for you. Of course, there's a major part which is not visible for us, which we cannot access from here. it's not loaded, and of course we cannot access it because if we could access, then there could be the possibility that of let's say hacking or some data corruption and so on. So basically, in such cases, we normally not we, but the servers normally hide this data. And one more thing, most of the servers, maybe some that's useful information if you work with the servers. Then most of the servers are built on Unix-based system, so it's not Windows. And for Unix-based systems, there's the access to the data is defined not in the same way as it is done for Windows operating systems. It's a little bit different, and usually there are free. Actually, Windows, to be honest, about Windows, I cannot export it. But for Unix, there are but there are actually three types of accesses to the files. It's read, change, and so it's read, change, and write. So it's read, write, and also for the groups. A moment, I'll quickly check it. Yeah, there are three. Then read, write, and execute. Yeah, another one. Because execute that mostly means for the executable files like PHP it can be, and then you may have different accesses, and for core files usually only the server itself has the access. But that's maybe a little different question. And if we go back to so basically based on the URL, you actually send the command to the server. Then I want to navigate to this or another page, because at the end of the day, there basically what you can see here, it should not always mean that. So if you have something like this link, then you actually have the section of training, then you navigate to the section of Java exercise 02, because this is just the path. So this is what you say to the server to do, to the logic which is located on the server. Because it can be whatever you want. You can define the paths as you want, and then it will navigate you. It may navigate you using the routing. We may talk about the routing a little bit later, but the routing may actually send you to different places. So it is not mandatory then this URL represent the actual path to the file. That may be corrected and changed and redirected using the routing. So that's basically, you just send that I want to generate something like this, and this will actually be generated here. So that's the URL. Then we go to the queries. So when we have the queries, these are, as I said, and we already talked about them, additional parameters. So using the queries, you actually don't change the path, but when the path to where we navigate, but when this logic is executed, so you send the request that I want to navigate to this to this path, then you also set the parameters then which may mean something. So if there's no meaning for them, then the logic will just skip them. But there may be the meaning for them, which will actually which may change the behavior of the page and also what is loaded here. Yeah, so that's about the URLs. So URLs have protocol. Protocol, it's usually HTTP or HTTPS. That's more secure. Yeah, and then URL. Then you have the server and the parameters. So you pipe the parameters. This is what I said. The next step, I also mentioned it last week about, and it's a very important step, is the request. So basically, what does it mean? Imagine you navigate through the pages. So just right now forgot about how you look at the pages navigating on the website from the user point of view. So when you are the user, you just see, okay, next this will navigate directly to the next page, for example. Yeah. So from the user point of view, that's everything's clear and no complexities. But at this point, I would like you to ask to please imagine if you look on it from the developer point of view. From the developer point of view, and okay, maybe in this case there is actually nothing dynamically, but let's imagine that let me think. I want to show you some input-output examples. That may mean. I'm not sure if we can actually navigate. At this point, I do not provide any information. Moment, let me check if we can actually have some searches, for example. Okay, maybe the comments is not the best one. Let's just want to navigate to the website. Let it be, I don't know. Again, I will go to CMDC. Why not? Then let's say that. Okay, maybe just right here. I just like CMDC, but that's not the question. That's not the topic. That's why I selected this page just for testing. But again, what's the idea? The idea is that here we have some field, and let's say we want to navigate to one of these. Okay, no, maybe the better example. I just realized Google. Let's say we want to search something from Google. I think that would be the best example here. So from the user point of view, what I want to do here, I just want to search for something. So I just say search for something. Here what I just did. And from the user point of view, that just makes sense. I have the search field. I search for something. I just press search and it searches for me, right? So nothing special here. But now at this point, let's forget about the user experience and let's think a bit how we can look at it from the developer's point of view. And from the developer's point of view, what we actually have, we have the page loaded, right? So that's the page. That's located on some server, and now we have the input field. So we have the input field. We have this page. We type something. So type something. So we type something. So we have a page, yeah, right moment. No thinking about the user experience, just as the developers, like we see it. So we type something, we have this field, we press search, so we press the button. Yeah, so we have input field, we have the button, we press, and it triggers the action. The action actually navigates us to another screen. So we have the screen where we have Google, the tabs and all this content here. But what's the key point here? The key point here is that I send the information from here So search for something. I send the information from here to here. Yeah, so I'm sending the information from one page to another. And if we think about how it is done, okay, this is done using queries. Okay, that's quite simple here. That's quite simple, but you can actually see. Yeah, so using queries. Okay, that's one of the options. We navigate to another page, then we can actually in this page. So once this page is loaded, it sees that's one of the options. That sees the query. You can see the query here is search plus 4 plus something. So based on this query, it searches for the articles which contain this string. So from this point of view, it looks pretty much clear. But let's say maybe I will just show my website. And then so we have this page. And let's say that so I have some actions here. So I'm providing that I want to add some product to the basket. So I have this input. So then I say add, then the page is reloaded, and it actually sends the information, and the page is reloaded. So at this point you can see there are no queries, which point to me that I want to add 3 items to the basket. Yeah. So it is not mentioned in the query, but it actually appears here. So basically, what's the point here is? The point here is, and maybe the main question is how we communicate between the page loading. So we have just this page, then we add and communication. We pass the information that we want to add 3 items to the basket. So basically. At this point, there is the communication done when the page is loaded. Yeah, the same here. I said, okay, I need to fill some information here. So on. So I have the information here. Then I press order, and I have some information here. So again, I sent the request. What should be shown here, and at this point we should take a look on the following thing. Yeah, I will go to my web page because I have more information about the page. So I just logged it. Okay, so basically at first, what do we have here? As I said, we better look on. So if we talk about the web pages and we investigate them, what's happening there, we normally should take a look on the inspect element, because again, if we have elements, then we can actually inspect what's going on here on this page. When we have console, it actually shows us, it may show us the errors or the warnings which come from usually from JavaScript, but also they may come from the backend. It basically shows us what are the errors which come. Then we have the sources, and this is what I said. Here we have the files which are actually loaded and available at this point. Yeah, so once the page is loaded, we have the files which are also loaded. So in this case, that's the CSS file, and so this is actually the generated which we cannot see. Let's refresh. And one more point. This is what you just seen. If you keep this open, then you will actually some information will be traced and also loaded. Like as I just said, if you just simply open inspect element, they go to source. Okay, at this point this will work, because yeah, that was opened when I refreshed the page. But if you just simply open it after the page is already loaded and you did not open the inspect command, then you may not see some content here. The same, here you have the content. Also, you will have the images and all such files here. And what I just said is the network. And network is the place where you can actually see how the communication between the pages happens. So at this point, how does this communication works? When I press add and it goes to the basket. So basically you have the input field here. So that's the input field. It has the name, yeah. So we don't look at ID, but we look at name. So it says that the name of the field is product input, and that's the ID of the product. But at this point, it's just the one unique name. And you can also keep it not unique, but better. You should have all the fields unique. So you have the name of the field. So that's product input something. So then I press. So that's the input. So then I increase the quantity. That's done using JavaScript. So it's JavaScript. We just changes the value. Then you press add. So that's the button. That's submit button. Let's go here, and you can see that's the button. The button has the name. And in my case that's a quick event. So I just click on it. So I press on this button, and basically so I'm pressing like this button. Network is here, I have the information here. So this is done by the logic. It's not just magically done. So I have the logic in backend. Which basically adds the product to the basket, which is actually located on the database. So all the information here is updated and stored on the database. But what I want to show to you, so when we go to network, and this is not the key. Yeah, this is basically the key point, how the navigation in between the pages is done. So first of all, you have these files which are loaded and used in this page. So these are mostly CSS files used for the styles. So you may have different styles here, and these are used also in the Bootstrap, Font Awesome. That's for icons here. Font Awesome, if you are interested, that's used for icons. jQuery, CSS, and the key point here is just the page. So, and if we press on it, we can actually see the parameters used. We can name it for the communication to this page. So maybe let's enhance it. Let's expand it. Yeah, I think that should be okay. So here you have. Here you actually have the information how this page is loaded. Yeah. So, and what we can see that this page is requested using the post method. So as I mentioned to you last time, we have the forms. In this case, I also use the forms. When you actually provide the method type. So if you don't provide the method type, it will just simply pass all the information directly to query. So basically, if you don't have the method, it and you have the form with the elements, then it will just send these parameters to the query. So basically, it will just navigate to the page, to the page you say to it under the form, and it will just add the values, the parameters with the values from the form to the query parameters. So these are again query parameters using question mark. You add some parameters, and this will actually navigate to the new page. And then at the load of the page, you can actually read these parameters, and also you can read them from the backend. Yeah, at this point, again, I would like to remind you that we have two key players here. We have the front end, which is basically what we can see at this point here, and what can be done here at this point. And the backend. Backend is the server. The server may have it can be written on different languages, but maybe I'm not sure what are the most popular languages for the servers, but PHP is one of the most popular one. Then we will also talk about it in upcoming sessions about Java. So for Java servers written on Java. And so when we talk about the queries is just the wing, and the wing is available to all the players here. But when we talk about, and the next thing is post. So when we have the form and we have the fields located under the form, and we provide the method post, then it means that this information will be available for the server only. So basically, what does it mean? It means that I put some values here, I press submit. In this case, that's submit button. Then the page then it navigates to the page we provide under the form. Like in this case, we can see that the form is here. Then we can see that if we don't have the action here, it means that it will just navigate to the current page. Okay, so we have this post, and this will, I don't have any action here. It will just navigate to the current page. If we have action, so I can show you, we can have the action here. A moment. Oh no, we don't have the action. Here we will have the action. Oh no, that's also the link. That's not the form. Okay, I think I did not use the actions, but you may have, like I just said in this case, you may also have the action parameter of the form, and this will actually be the link where it will navigate and also send data. And as I just, let's continue. When we have the post, so like in this case we have form. So this can be written on HTML. So in this case you can write it yourself also. We'll write something like this later. And yeah, it has the method post, and this is what you can see here. So the post and what does it mean? It means that the information will be sent to the backend, to the server. And basically this is what you can see here. So basically when you press on the submit button, it collects all the information from the form. So we can see the form here, and you can see all the fields from the form. So these are basically all the fields I have here, the name of the fields I have under the form. And so as you remember, we have this product input something, this one. Yeah, and you can actually see that this is the information we sent to the server. Yeah, so we have the field name, and then we have the value of the field. So basically this is what we sent to the server. Yeah, we pressed on the button, then all this information was sent to the server. And also what did it send is this button. So the name of the button is to add. So it should also be here. For some reason it's not. Okay, that's strange, but it should also be here. Oh, no, I have add, and actually, yeah, everything's fine. So it just adds we have add button, which is hidden. You can also have a hidden button, and then the value of what should be added here. And this is basically we provide, again, to summarize it, what is done. We have the fields here. We have the fields with the names, and we can provide, if that's input field, we provide the value to it. So once then everything what is done without the submit is done on the page, it does not communicate the server. But when we press submit, that means that we have the form, then the form has the method, so then we provide this information what's stored under the form to the server. Then the server actually has all this information, and based on the information it can do some actions, like in this case it updated the basket, and you can see the basket on the screen now. So yeah, this is how the communication with the server is done. In this case I have the form. Sometimes you can also see the JSON, the content here, and yeah, also you can find some additional encoding type and some cookies here as well. Some details about the server and so on. Okay, but that's the main information. Okay, so moments, this one. So let's go back to the presentation. Yeah, you may have different request parameters. Mostly we use get or post. These are similar methods. Post mostly either to send the information, get to get the information. They are quite similar. I will explain some differences a little bit later, but mostly we use these two. And then you can also get the response. So basically when we send, again what I just said, when we provide the URL we use the browser again, so we enter the URL, we press enter, we execute the URL, and we basically send the information to the server. And the server but it most likely this will provide you the response. And so it shows you the status, like in this case, as I said, you may have, I need to do some steps again. By initial you won't see anything here, but if you do some submit actions, you will actually see this will work as the trace for you. And so you can have the status code is 200. Okay, so this is how it responds to you, and it will also respond to you with the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript content. Yeah, so these three, what we were talking about in the previous sessions, this is what you get from server. You'll see this content. Also, you can see the files. Something may be generated from by the server, and it will also may show it to you as the response. And also the state. Once there may be the cookies, and from the server side, these may be the sessions. So, and now let's say that our server is based on Java. So, as I said, backend servers, just the servers for the web pages, they are written on different programming languages. Because again, as you may notice, if we just have HTML, basically what we can do. So we have HTML. just HTML pages, written only in HTML. What we can do with such pages, that would be quite complicated to actually work with this, because usually we have the content which is not just static. You can write once and then just use it. Just use it as you want. There may be some such pages, but normally you will have the content which is generated. Like again, if this is the news page, then again you have the news updated. Like let's say if it's the news page, then the news are updated normally like once a minute. In worst case, yeah, usually they may be updated like once per 10 seconds or something like that. And of course, this is you just don't update the HTML code every 10 seconds, right? So this is not how it is done. Normally you have the database, you have the server where you have, let's say, images or the videos stored, and basically the task. This means that you will not have the static HTML file. You will have, again, as I said, you have the server which will actually generate this HTML content for you. So if these are the news, then it reads the information from the database, and then it, based on this information, it actually generates the content for you. And this is why for such purpose, to build our web pages using the code, to generate our pages using the programming, we can use Java. And of course, to do it, we need to work with some files, some classes, and the most important would be HTTPServer class. So this is the class, the main class you work with, and basically what are the pages, so what are the files which can navigate, can actually create the web page for you. So these are HTTP servlets, Java server or Java server pages. We mostly use these two. So it means that you have these files, and then from them you can actually. So these are the files where there's HTML code written, and you can also write Java code. No, you mostly write Java code, and you can write HTML code, and basically combine them and create the actual HTML content and the result. And also there are Java server faces, but we mostly will work with these two. And next thing, as I said, and the key thing is the server, because we should have the server where firstly our page is stored on, because you should have, so the server is the place where your page is stored. So basically the question from you may be, why can't we just store the, so if we have the server, that's the place where we store the web pages, the content for them. So basically why we can't just store it somewhere in the file storage? That's not possible, because you also need to execute these files, right? Because without the execution, we cannot just execute, let's say that's Java file or that's PHP file without any execution program, right? So, and for this purpose, we need to have the servers, special servers, which will parse the content from these files, which will execute these files and do all this generation stuff correctly. And for Java there are Jetty, Tomcat and JBoss. So these are the server types. We will use Tomcat for our web applications. And so basically this will be the place where our page will be generated. And then we have Java Web Frameworks. So these are the frameworks which will actually help us to actually control our page, because again, if we just have a bunch of HTML HTML files, then the question will be how we can actually normally, again, if we just have large web page, then as you can imagine, there are lots of pages there. Not web page, but website. You can imagine that there are lots of web pages stored under the website, and then you cannot just simply put for each page the files into different folders, then just try to navigate in between them. Of course, we need to have the way how to transfer the data, how to normally transfer the data, how to store the data, to read it, and so on. Yeah, so in such case, for such purposes, we use the frameworks. And yeah, there's Spring Boot, Jersey, Wizard, Spark. We will talk about Spring Boot most likely. Also just Spring itself and struts. Yeah, so these are not Java, but Java Virtual Machine frameworks. So basically it means that these frameworks will be executed from Java Virtual Machine. Also, yeah, there's Play for Scala, and Grass for Ruby. So, but yeah, we will most likely use just standard frameworks. Then yeah, so there's HTTP server class. So basically this is the main class we would like to use for the implementation. So that's bound to API address and port number, and listens for incoming TCP connections for clients on this address. So the subclass implements a server, which actually handles these HTTPS requests. Yeah, so one or more such objects must be associated with a server to actually process all the requests sent. So basically this is the class. As I said, when we navigate between the pages, we have these requests, HTTP requests, and of course we should have the normal class to handle these requests, because normally they are sent as the text, and so you can actually, so right here you can see that we have some fields here with the values, but again, in fact, this is actually sent. Yeah, we can actually see without view source, and you can actually see how this is sent. Here, of course, you should not create the logic to parse all these things. Yeah. It should be normally done by the classes, and Java we have this HTTP server, which actually is responsible for all this stuff. So yeah, it's registered with root URI path, which represents the location of the application or server on servers on this server. So the mapping of a handler is encapsulated. using HTTP context object. So these are created by calling. You call create context. So you provide a string and handler, and this will actually create the context. And any request for which no handler can be found is rejected, and as you may notice, and you already experienced it, you may get 404 response, and that means the error, nothing is found. So it allows us to manage the threads, and it can be done external to the subject. So when we just provide executor object. So if none is provided, the default implementation then is used. Also, there is the way how we can do the mapping between the URIs to HTTP context path. So basically, when the server receives the request, the HTTP request, the appropriate context is located by finding context whose path is the longest matching prefix of the request's URI's path. So the paths are matched literally. That means that the strings are compared case sensitively, and there is no conversion to or from any encoded forms. So, for example, there is a given HTTP server with the following HTTP configured context configured. So basically, as I just said, how the communication is done. This is what I explained to you already today. We have the browsers. This is what the clients use. Using the browsers, we actually execute files, mostly that can be PHP classes, and so this is the code. There are the classes with the methods executed. So basically the logic is there, and the logic mostly helps us to, why it's mostly, because logic is what actually help us to navigate, not to navigate, but to request the information from the database, and also we can change the content of the database. It's mostly done using PHP or other such languages. You cannot, the key point here is you cannot contact the database using HTML. So when you just simply have this HTML page created, so something.html, you cannot navigate to the, not navigate, but you cannot contact the database from HTML page. That's not possible, and that's why we should have different. So first we should have a server, and the server helps us to actually write the executable code, and this helps us to contact the database. So basically how the web application server looks like. This is what we will do on Java. So we have again the browser. The browser helps us to connect to the web server, and so on the web server you have the application server, which actually is written on, in this case it's in Java. It can be written also in different languages, but since we talk about Java, then here it is written on Java. Here we have GSP, GSF or servlets files, and from them we can actually communicate to the database. Alright, so let's maybe have the break now, and after the break we'll continue. So okay, let's continue. Okay. Yeah. So basically, let's continue. And so basically, what are the basics? What are the basics for web application server? So first of all, they support websites in Java that use dynamic data from database, template files, scripts, user inputs, and so on. So basically, the idea is quite simple. So we have Java code, which is, let's say, specific Java code, which will actually generate the HTML content basically all content on the website for us. Yeah. So the web application servers can work as standalone web servers, but usually they work together with a proper web server. Usually they are Apache or Nginx. So these are so web servers provide HTTP transport and load balancing. So they provide the security and application performance management. And the typical users are the integration with legacy systems. The database so basically means that using the web applications we can actually change the data in a way that this data will be replicated in the database. So basically we want to interfere with the data at the database level, and we can do it using the web application servers. For e-commerce, business-to-business solutions, security, performance management, and so on. So basically the typical typical usage of web applications. So basically, sometimes there may be a little bit confusion between what's the difference between between the web applications and websites. To be honest, these two things are very similar, but websites mostly, this is something like you go there, you look at some stuff, and so you don't have any personalization there. You don't have you don't do lots of inputs there, and also lots of changes, like let's say changes to the data there. The website is just something that you go there, you just look at something and then just do not customize it, do not interfere with it in a quite significant level. But comparing to the websites, the web applications are something that's where you actually interfere with the data a lot. So you change the data, you read the data, and so on. You customize it. So this is mostly about web applications. So then let's talk about the servers, because again, as I just said, for different servers, there may be different construction and also different files they can execute, they can proceed, because again, not all the servers can execute Java files or some specific Java related files. And servers should have such option to do, and for our purpose we can use Tomcat, which is Tom, that's the name, and cat, that's the cat. We'll use it, but first I will show you how it looks like. So that's the cat, that's the Apache server, and that's the Apache Tomcat. So that's the leading open source web application server that's used for large production systems. Executables are compiled as native binary for operating systems. So by itself, it can handle web pages, servlets, and GSP pages. The main modules for Tomcat are Coyote, that's the Tomcat's HTTP 1.1 server, and they also support Catalina, that's Tomcat's servlet container. And also Jasper, that's Tomcat's GSP engine. Another web application server is Jetty, that's an open source server written in pure Java. So executable is one, as you know, for Java to execute Java files, that's GR. We execute GAR files. It's used for standalone small self-executable applications, but we'll use Tomcat. I will then, during today's session, I will show you how to do the setup, and then I will ask you to do the same. So basically, let's move on. The Java servlets. So it's like an applet. As you remember, when we talked about a graphical user interface, we talked about applets, and so the servlet is something similar, but it's done on the server side. So basically, client sends a request to server. This is what I said when we navigate to the pages. We send a request, then the server starts the servlet. So that's the file, yeah, it executes this file. Then the servlet computes the result for server and does not quit. It returns the response, and then another client sends a request, server calls the servlet again, and so on. So basically, the client in this case, that's the one who actually, that's not the person, but that's the browser mostly. Yeah. Talk about the browser. So from the browser, we as the users, we send the request, that's the server, and then the server uses the servlet to actually to not calculate, but to get the result. Then it returns the result to server, and server provides the corresponding result to the client. So basically, this is the way. These are the files which can be actually executed and give us dynamic result. So that's about it. What are the classes used for servlets? That's just servlet class itself. So it's any class that implements the interface. So servlet does the interface, and so when we implement this interface, we actually have our own servlet. And in practice, most servlet extend not just the servlet class, but HTTP servlet class, and some of them also extend generic servlet. So these are, like, as I said, applets. They usually they have no main method, but they override other methods. So basically, you will find the methods. I will show you what are these methods. We will mostly use to construct our pages, but yeah, mostly it means that we actually have the methods which come from the servlet class, and we override them in our class. So then let's talk about HTTP requests. This is what I already mentioned today. So when a request is submitted from web page, again, as I said, we have the web page, then it has the form. Then inside the form, we can actually we have the fields. Then the form itself has the method, and mostly that's get or post. So that's the form tag, which is located in the HTML page. And it also has the attribute action. I have not mentioned it. I have mentioned it, but I have not shown the example with action. But basically, under the action, no, that's not correct here. It's not the action. That's the method. So the method is get or post. But the action is actually the not URL, but I cannot really say navigation, but the page which to be loaded. So in this case, that's not really correct. But again, what is located under the action? It depends on your page. So basically, under the action, you put. We can actually consider it as the link, as the path, and that will be the path to the place where the method is executed. And the method is, again, like I said, get or post. And yeah, so once the action results in the form, we import query parameter, and that's question mark in the URL. So again, as I mentioned, the URL is constructed in the way that we have the protocol, then the domain, then the path to the you are going to, and then you have the query parameters. Then query parameters are needed to provide can be additional or also can be the main information to our pages. So basically these are the parameters which again do not affect the navigation here. So in this case the navigation is this exact page, but we can provide the parameters and then the page will be constructed in corresponding way. And yeah, using and so I'm not sure why it's this way. Yeah, so using and parameter, yeah, that's just the font here. But yeah, using and parameters, we separate various parameters. Yeah, and only limited amount of information can be sent this way. We can send large amounts of information, but again, that depends on what you are calling. And yeah, there are other servlet methods. So the service method dispatch the following kind of requests: delete, get, add options, put, post, put, and trace. But again, as I said, we mostly use get and post. So the get request is dispatched to do get. So basically, what it means that the method do get will be executed once we submit the get request. And then there are the parameters, and under the parameters you will actually, so you can see request. So basically these are the classes, but these are the classes which will store this information, this one, and this information which will normally be parsed in the classes and the objects, and you can actually access it in a comfortable way. Yeah, so for get we use to get, for post we use to post. So these are two methods you will usually override. Yeah, so once you override them, you will be able to get the information and to use it as you want. Take it back. Alright, so they typically do the same thing. So usually they do the real work in one and have the other just call it. And so that would be like in this way. You use to post as the main method, and if program calls to get, then you can just simply redirect to get to the post method. So basically in this case the logic will be the same for get and for post. So as an example, you may have so-called hello world servlet. I will show you this example like in 10 minutes. So basically the idea is that so in sometimes around in 10 minutes I will show you how can we basically start working with web applications, and then after that I will ask you to do the same setup as well. But yeah, so that's about it. And so this is the servlet. The servlet, again, that's the file. That's the Java file where you have the simple class, which is the servlet. So basically that's just the simple class. Simple Java class, which extends servlet. And here you have doGet method. So how this will basically look like, so let's have a small investigation here. So this is the method which comes from the HTTPServer class, so nothing special here, but what you will see here, you have the response. So basically this is the response you sent to the back to the user. And under the response you can send content type, this may be HTML, So it means that you will respond with HTML, and then you can actually use the writer class, that's print writer, and basically under it you can generate, so basically what comes here, you just generate you just generate the HTML content. So this is what I said. Here comes the, not the sum, but the generation of HTML file. Okay, so basically what's done here, you have the HTML text, and you just simply generate HTML using the code as the text. Yeah, so again, it's quite simple. You know how to construct the strings using Java. So basically this is what comes here. You just create the HTML content, and then you have this out class, that's the writer element. The writer comes from the response object, and so here you can just simply print it, and this will actually print you the HTML content located here. Again, please be careful with in this case that should normally print parsed HTML content, but you can see there are some new line characters which actually mean that mean new line under the text. But yeah, please remember that for HTML to move to new line we use BR. But yeah, in this case that's for the text generation. BR is used for the actual content display. Right, so that's it, and yeah, so the superclass. Superclass, as I said, should be servlet, so it means that every class must extend generic servlet, or a subclass or any subclass of generic servlet class. So it's protocol independent, so you could write a servlet to process any protocol. In practice, you almost always respond to HTTP requests, and basically we mostly work with HTTP or HTTPS requests. And yeah, a subclass of the servlet must override at least one method. Usually one of these to get, to post, to put, to delete, and destroy or get servlet info. Right. So yeah, and the main, the key method for us here is to get or do post. Let's take a look on do get. So that's the method which actually processes get request. It uses request to get the information that was sent to it. Again, we navigate between the pages, then the requests are sent, and the data from the request may be used to generate page. It does not return a value. Instead, it uses the response, so it just sends the response, which is actually input-output stream, and it outputs the response. So it for input-output streams, we should use input-output exception. That's the standard exception which comes from the input-output classes, and yeah, any other type of exception should be encapsulated as a server. As a servlet exception class. Then do post actually does exactly the same. And the only difference is that do get works with get method, and do post works with post method. I mostly use post for my websites. get can be used as well. So input is from the HTTPServer request parameter. So our first example which we see here does not get any input, so we'll discuss this a little bit later, okay, about input. And output is done using the HTTPServer response object, which where we use which is named response, and we actually use it. But yeah, input output itself is very flexible, but it's also quite complex. So this object acts as an assistant for us. So yeah, then how can we use the response? That's the object which actually stores the response information. So basically, in this case, I would say that that's mostly like, maybe go back a little bit to this example we had here. Yeah, this one you can see that the method definition is the void, so it does not have the responding returning parameter. Yeah, we use the void, but actually the returning content to be stored under this parameter. So as I said once, this is mostly called C programming, when we actually pass the values as in C languages that's mostly passed by reference. In Java we only have pass by value, but we have the objects which can be modified inside the method. So basically it means that this method is called, we pass the parameters to this method, and then under these parameters we actually change these parameters inside this method, and then after this method is executed, then the values for these parameters will be, for these objects will be changed. Right, so yeah, that's under the response. So it actually then, yeah, the idea is that it everything is sent using the ME type. The first thing we must do with response is to set this type to our reply. So it means that we send the content type, which actually shows what's the content we will try to respond with. In this case, we're responding with HTML, and it tells the client to interpret the page as HTML. And yeah, because we will be outputting character data, we need a print writer. So handle provided for us by the getWriter method, and yeah, we get it using response object. And then you have the writer, where we can actually write the content for HTML. And yeah, now we're ready to create the actual page to be returned. So you can see that we use print writer. From here on, it's just a matter of using print writer out object, which will actually return the web page for us. Yeah, so in this case we create the header, we separate it in a different variable. But again, since this is Java, we can act as we want. We can also create additional classes and to process the content in some way that way, but as we want. Okay, in this case we have the variable which actually stores the header. And yeah, technically this is required by HTML specification. But yeah, the browsers mostly don't care, but HTML editors do care. So if the code will be validated, then you should have this header on the top. And then you can just simply use print line method of out one or more times, and then we are done. content to be displayed. So, and yeah, basically how to handle the input to a servlet. A get request supplies parameters in the form of URL. So there's the URL, and yeah, actual spaces in the parameter values are encoded by plus signs. So using the plus, we actually use the spaces. Yeah, so using plus signs. Yeah, and other special characters are encoded in hexadecimal, in hex format. So for some specific characters, also for the Latvian characters, when we use them, we can also use them in URL, but the Latvian characters will be displayed in such way, and using percentage and some hex value. And yeah, the post request supplies parameters in the same syntax, only it is in the body section of the request and is therefore harder for the user to see it. Yeah, so basically how to get the parameters. So input parameters are retrieved using the messages, which are sent to HTTPServer request, and most of the interesting methods are inherited from the super interface, that's server request, and so using the method get parameter names, we can actually get the enumeration of the parameter names. So if no parameters, then it just returns empty. So basically what this means, we have get parameter method, and this method actually returns us the string of the parameters. We can also use get parameters values, and this will actually return the array of strings. So if the parameter does not exist, then it returns null. Same as for the parameter values, it also returns null. But yeah, for the get parameter, it just simply returns the value if there can be maybe the arrays, or for the value for the parameter name, then it actually returns the array. And yeah, if main has multiple values, only the first is returned. Yeah. So as an example, you will have this to get the get method, and here we actually using the request, we actually get the parameter values. So we provide the name of the parameter to be returned, and this returns the array of the parameter, the array of values which come from the request. And then we can actually work with these parameters as we want them. Yeah. So Java review data from strings. So since we work with the HTTP requests, then as I mentioned to you, everything is sent as the string. So basically, for the task for Java classes is to parse this content and then to actually make us able to work with this content, because otherwise it will be quite complicated to simply work with such just simple strings without any meaningful parsing. Yeah, so we do not need to parse all these strings by ourselves. It can be done by Java objects. Yeah, so all of them are treated as strings, but we can actually use, as we already know, we can use in this case it's show int value, but again we can parse integer, parse double, parse byte, and then get the corresponding values. So similar for short, float, and long. So for boolean, also the same way. Basically, we already know how to get the corresponding type from string. And yeah, the last thing what we'll talk about in the theory today is Java server pages. So that's the alternative to servlet pages. So that's actually how to create the servlets. It's written in HTML, but it is also mixed with Java. So basically, I would say that this is the way mostly used for PHP. And yeah, this is something similar to PHP pages. So basically, it means that you need to provide such tags, and inside. So basically, it will work as the simple HTML code, but when you provide these tags, inside these tags, you can actually write a Java code. Yeah. So inside these tags, you write Java code. Yeah, and that's why also we mostly call HTML as template text, and inside this template text we actually write, we can type Java code. They must have an extension of GSP, and then it is translated to a Java servlet, which is then compiled, and we will see the content. So servlets are run in the usual way. The browser or other client sees only the resulting HTML. When you actually navigate through the browser, you don't see how the content is generated. We just have this actual output. I don't see how this and where this is generated. We just see the output result here. The same is for Java. For Java, basically this is not for all of them. For all the web pages, this works this way. Now web application servers know how to handle servlets and GSP pages both. So the scripting elements, there is more than another type of GSP tag, depending on what you want done with Java. So basically, here you have the simple code using this tag, and you may need to add the equals mark, and this will actually return the value. And I will show you how basically if you have something like the number calculated from Java, you can this will actually display it on the HTML page. So here is just simply the code. So if you don't have equals mark, then it will just simply execute some Java code without the actual output here. Also the declaration with exclamation mark. So they are inserting the servlet class, not into methods. So this would look this way. You have HTML, you have body. So this is the code you write in DSP. But inside this tag, you actually have Java code, which returns the data in this case as the string. So here we have the string of the object, which is data. So it is used because we are computing a value, and then it is inserted into HTML tag. Maybe at this point that's maybe not clear for you, but to navigate here. But this is basically quite simple, because using the equals mark, you actually get the content of what comes from Java, and it will be translated to HTML. So fully qualified name is used instead of short name, because we haven't yet talked about how to actually import the declaration into the GSP pages. Okay, maybe we will continue in more detail about it during the next theory session. Right now I would like to do the setup and to show you how we can actually proceed with the creation of the web application. So first of all, you will need to use another version of Eclipse. You can actually use the simple Eclipse we are now, but then you need to download, from my point of view, too many enhancements, and I better suggest you to download another version of Eclipse. So this would be, if you go to download, then you go to moment. Let's try this one. No. Let's already Eclipse for web development. That's one. Oh no, it's for JavaScript. And this one. Moments. No, that's all. That's Eclipse for Java developers. For Java development. I will provide the link. So this one. Oh, I'm sorry. Comments. Oops, for Java. ID for Java. Okay, here it is. This one. Yeah, this one. Eclipse ID for Java EE developers. So you will need to download it from here. Go deeper, and then you can download it for Windows or for other system you have. So I press download here. I will share the link with you. So that will be under the links section in Discord. Okay, so that's. Oh, no, sorry, that was the wrong version. Okay, yeah, this one. Yeah, sorry. It's a little bit. Oh, no, yeah, this one. Sorry, please forget about the previous link. This one. Okay, so I will change the link. And, yeah, from here you can actually download the version. So I'm currently downloading it. So I already downloaded it yesterday, because I previously worked on another computer, that's why I had to download it on this computer as well. So then it is, so you download it from here. Then you just need to install it, and basically you can install it the same way as you did it previously for another version of Eclipse, and yeah. So once you have the Eclipse installed, you will. So that would be this one, Eclipse ID. So I will quickly open it. My computer. So a moment, I'll quickly open it. That was the wrong Eclipse. Okay, so here it is. It's under. So. Okay. Okay. Yeah, so then. Okay. Okay. I already opened it. Okay, I already have it on my computer. So let me open the right workspace there. And let me open the right workspace here. Okay. So you install the Eclipse here. Then you open it. And see, and the Eclipse will look the same way. The Eclipse will work the same way. The only difference is that you will have you'll have more features there, and since this is the Eclipse for web development, you will have some web tools available there. So that's about this Eclipse. So let's start the running. And so one more thing, what you'll need to do. Tomcat server. You'll need to go to Tomcat page and download. Let's use Tomcat 9. So I'll provide the link to you here in Discord chat. And right here you will need to download zip file for Tomcat. So you will need to download the file. So here it is. Okay, so this is Eclipse. Yeah, this will look the same way. You can use the same workspace you used before. You can use the workspace you used before. So okay, so then once you downloaded the Tomcat zip file, you can open it. Here, let me close something. And it's loading. Oh no, I have it here, okay. So I opened the zip file and here I have the folder. So you don't need to install anything, you just need to extract it to the folder. So let's say that this would be, I think I have this folder here. I just created Tomcat server folder and I just extract the content from this folder here. So once it is done, you can go to Eclipse and you will need to, so you can go to Window, then you can show View, and here you will have such option to open the servers. So I suggest to have this view. I want to have it here. So, and right here you have the new servers. As you can see right now there are no servers installed. But so what I can do, I can press on create server. I select Apache and here I have, so again, servers on the server screen. Then you press new, or you can press here, press the same button, then you go to Apache, Then you select Tomcat 9, and right here you have browse. You have to provide the path to the Tomcat folder, this one. So then you can press finish, and you will have this Tomcat server here. So it's refreshing. So once the server is here and everything is refreshed, okay, I think you can also already start checking, so you can run this Tomcat. So press running, and you can see that it has started. It is started, so here I have the server, that's okay. Yeah. So now I have the server is running, so everything is good here. And now I can start to creating my first project here. So you go to new. At this point you don't have this project, you need to go to other, and here you need to type dynamic, and you will have dynamic web project. You select dynamic web project. So let's say that would be main web project. Then I have this Apache Tomcat server. This is what I just created. The location to be default, all the other settings to be the same. This next, everything is correct here. I press finish, and I will have and then I have my first project here, which is based on server, and from here I can create the servlets, and also I can create GSP pages, and then execute them on server. So first of all, let's create some let's create servlet. So basically I can start with the servlet class, and this would be that would be here. I can actually press new. That will be the class. That will actually be Java class. I can say that will be first. So what? Oh yeah, the package, of course. You better create the package, as we usually do in Java. So that will be the main package. Then I create the class. It's the first servlet. And then I can, let's copy the code we had here in the presentation. Okay, the presentation is loading. Crashed. Okay, the presentation is here. So let's maybe copy the servlet from here. Write it down, just copy it, yeah. So, yes. So then I say extend, and yeah, so here I need to load the class. I need to load all the classes from here. Response throws exception, and input output exception, and need to load all the classes. You can also sorry, I'm serious about, but that's the most important point for us. And so basically I have all the stuff here. Okay, then what we can do, we can run on server. Yes, I can select Tomcat server. Okay, let's restart. First point. Okay, it's starting again. Okay. For some reason it's not available. Okay, maybe there's the issue with Apache server. Moment. Okay, so that's okay. Maybe okay. I'll keep this a little bit later. Yeah, let's create GSP page. So I'll create a folder for GSP pages. GSP pages, and here I will create the GSP page. GSP page. Okay. So let me GSP file. So let's say first GSP. And yeah, so let's say that we can add the same page added here, and the same page written here. So that would be, let's say, this one. And just use for body this content. So this is static content, and this is the content loaded by Java. So let's check here. This run, we run on server. Finish. Oh yeah, and now it works. Okay, for server there was the issue, but for GSP that works well. So basically, I have GSP page. I have the static content here. Hello. So here I basically write HTML content. Yeah, and it inserts the date from Java utility class, and you can see that date is generated here. I'm not sure why the servlet is not working. Yeah, okay, there's okay, it was for some reason not available, but yeah, for GSP that works fine. That works. Oh, the moment, yeah, that was Java. Oh yeah, sorry, yeah, not just a simple Java class, but of course the moment, please forget about this one. That was not correct. Yeah, so you need to of course create it as the servlet. So basically what you do, you go to main project, and now what you go, then you go to new, and here you should find the servlet. You select servlet, then you select the package to be main, then the class is, let's say, my first servlet, and here it is. So now in do get I can actually try the code which was here, and then I run it on server. Okay. I can continue without restarting. Oh no, sorry, we need to restart at this point because we just loaded new content. So let's run on server, and now let's restart it. Let's restart it. And yeah, now we have this hello world generated from do get method. And so I can type some more Java code here, and this will actually generate me these 2 pages. So okay, the task for you now is to create to install Eclipse for web development. Then the next step is to download Tomcat server. Then you should put Tomcat server here. So again, you should use server screen. Then you can press new, add server. Then I can quickly show you server, select Tomcat version, and then from here, then you can just select. It will ask you to provide the path to the Tomcat server, and yeah, then you have the server here. You can press start to check if the server can be started. If everything is okay, it is started, and then you can use this server. So after it is done, you can try to create your first servlet. Then to create the servlet or GSP page, you need to press right click on the project name. Yeah, first you need to create the project, of course. So when you create the project, you press new, you press, if you don't have dynamic web project here, you press other. Here you need to navigate to dynamic web project. So then you create a project, it should be here, and then you can try to create servlet and the GSP page. So please try to do it. Again, if you don't manage to do it today, don't worry. You can. Again, that's just for you to prepare your workspace to be able to start working with the web applications. Okay, so I think from my side that's it for today. Please start. Please prepare your workspace now, and then if you have any questions, if something does not work, please let me know. I will try to assist you. Okay, so that's then it from me. Now please try it yourself, and so if everything is fine for you, then most likely meet you on Wednesday then. Okay. Bye.